Yeah. MD. JPB. It's only right, baby.
Yeah. Why you mad? I got a bad bro. Name hot in these streets, no Tabasco. But I'm so stuck, that's a fact, yo. And if you think I'm frontin', you can run it back, yo. Go on, run it back. You know that I run it. Everything you wanna do, I already done it. And I got your little boo telling me she love me. I got this. Damn, it's gonna be a long night.
Hello guys, what is up? It is me, Prince of This, and I'm back here with another video. Today I will be doing What If Shinra Was a Dragon, Part 1, Shinra Kusakabe. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you so much for getting me to 15k. We're halfway on our way to 20k. And for those of you who came to the latest live stream today, I'm sorry about the mic. Apparently none of you could hear me after like a few minutes passed, so I don't know what happened, but I'll try to fix it. And hopefully I'll be streaming again. Also, an issue that I obviously noticed with my Discord is that I am not active enough. And also, there's too many pings. There's just too many things, being mentioned. There's too many giveaways. So I'm going to have to go there and, talk about that. I'm sorry for those of you who had to like deal with that, like you're just doing something and something just pops up. There's like a bunch of Discord notifications. I'm sorry about that. I will take care of that. And then you guys can have more of an enjoyable time. And I will try to be more active on Discord. It's just that there's so much of you, so many of you, always talking and stuff. I don't know who to focus on, yeah. So, let's just get right into it. 15k special, 1 hour long, hopefully. And, yeah. 250 years ago, a great cataclysm occurred. The world was filled with and burned with fire. From this came the Tokyo Empire, shielding people from the dangers of the world. But then came infernals, human combustions, and humans would just combust into monsters that release fire on a daily basis. Fire soldiers and the fire force were made to deal with these combustions and bring people to peace, but enough about that. Let's just talk about the main character real quick. Years ago in his house, when everything was lit on fire and his brother was taken, he would start to be approached by a demon with horns coming out of its eyes. And this moment is when a young Shinra Kusakabe would reach forward and touch the inferno. In this instant, he absorbs the fire of the inferno, and slowly but surely he starts to see his mother's face. This inferno would then disappear as his mother comes back to him, and she then falls on the ground, saying, "I'm so glad. Mom, wake up, please, Mom. They took Sho." He'll be trying to wake up his mom for a while until the fires were put out, and in will walk a fire soldier with an eye patch over his right eye. Well, not yet anyway. Tapping Shinra on the shoulder, his eye would then flare for a moment, and he backs away in fear. What is this? Thinks Leonard. However, while being scared, he would then see Shinra turn around as he begs for his mom to be saved. Now, snapping out of it, he would then check her temperature and pulse, noticing that she is barely alive, but she's also really warm. What is this? Medics! Medics would then come in and take and carry Shinra's mom away to an ambulance, and Shinra would be allowed to go with his mom. However, Leonard sends one of his people to watch over him as he thinks that Shinra is a pyrokinetic. "It's fine, kid. She's gonna be okay," says one of the fire soldiers with Shinra. Shinra would then nod, holding his mom's hands tight, as we see his eyes flare up and shine, and we go into the body, like his inside of his body, to see a great brewing and unstoppable fire. Patience, the boy will grow, and soon I can start fixing my mistake. Now, a time skip, Shinra is walking to take a bus. Over the years, Shinra wasn't bullied or made fun of because what happened to his mother and his brother, who was thought of as dead, was actually really messed up, and instead people supported him, and Shinra had a lot of friends, and also due to his natural charisma, since what happened to his mom, something inside him changed. He became more calm-headed, and he was naturally stronger than everyone else, even adults, like easily. By the time he entered school, he could lift a car with one hand, and soon he joined the academy for the fire force. But his ability was way more versatile. Shinra could do anything with fire, make it into any shape, cancel it out from anyone, control natural fire as well, and just like any source of fire at his will. He was so good that he got recommended to the first company, but instead he chose the 8th company. He did this because those people were specifically described as outcasts, and he wanted to lie low since he has always been getting attention. It kind of bothers him because people usually don't leave him alone, and they're always talking about how good he is and stuff. Now, as the train doors open, they would then burst with fire as Shinra steps back, saying, "Calm down." Snapping his fingers, he then made the fire die down entirely, completely. But everyone was still running out in a panic because an inferno had just been born. Now, as people ran past him, Shinra just stood there, sensing where the inferno was about to come from. This was another ability of his, and the inferno steps out as out come the conductors and staff with fire extinguishers, telling Shinra to run away. However, Shinra would then walk forward with the men not being able to stop him because he's too strong, and the inferno would run at Shinra, going to claw at him. just as the 8th company arrives. Now, getting out of their fire vehicle, Obi yells for everyone to move out, only to then look forward to see an Infernal about to kill a kid. Get out of the way! However, it was too late as the Infernal attacks, and Shinra, however, dodges, as instead of hitting him or running away, he hugs it tightly, saying, "Rest in peace." The Infernal for a moment would then actually turn back into a human, and they all see this, and the man thanks Shinra, turning to dust. Now, the other fire soldiers would then come out to see this, and they're shocked, and they then see him making a prayer sign, and he then turns around and starts walking to the 8th company. Obi would then run to Shinra, checking if he was okay, and while he was doing this, the others would then go make sure the citizens were okay, but Priestess Iris stays. "Kid, how did you do that?" "I'm a pyrokinetic, sir." "Well, obviously, but how did you put the Infernal to rest in that way? And why aren't your clothes on fire?" Iris would then tell Obi to calm down because Shinra clearly looks uncomfortable, and as he does stop doing this, he apologizes, and Iris would introduce herself. Shinra would then introduce himself, saying, "My name is Shinra Kusakabe. Apparently, I'm part of the 8th company starting today." Obi would then be excited to hear this, considering what this kid just did and with no fear, but he wonders why Shinra was sent here if his abilities seem so good. But then he recognizes Shinra, calling him the Fire Mage, which was his nickname due to how many abilities he had with fire, and he controlled it like just like nothing. He just controlled it like another extension of his body. People actually knew about Shinra a little bit. So we cut to when Shinra arrives at the 8th company, and before he enters, he sees how run down it is, and he's then shown around by Hinowa, and Hinowa also gives him his fire suit. He would then be sent to Obi's office, and when he enters, he finds him hanging upside down while doing, sit-ups, crunches, all of that. Obi would then jump down, greeting him as he officially introduces himself, and Hinowa does as well. Obi then looks at Shinra's sheet and realizes, "You were chosen to be part of the 1st company?" "Yes, sir." "So there must be a reason why you came to our horrible company, eh? Might tell me what it is?" Shinra would then answer honestly, saying that he wants to avoid attention and doesn't care what company he's part of as long as he's stopping Infernals. Obi and Hinawa are reminded of how sad he looked when he actually put that Infernal to rest. "Quite a weird goal for someone like yourself, but understandable," says Hinawa. This is when Maki and Iris walk in, and Shinra would apologize for doing their jobs for them, specifically Iris, like putting the Infernal to rest. But Iris says it's fine and then introduces Maki, and as they shake hands, Maki notices how tall Shinra is and how condensed his muscles look. And then she thinks, could this be destiny? So Obi makes sure Shinra feels comfortable with his suit and then explains what everyone's abilities are, and after this he officially is part of the company and he gets his own room. We then cut to Shinra at night on his bed, snapping his fingers as he would create fire constructs resembling his mother, himself, and Shou running around in the sky. What could have been? What a life I could have had. But life just isn't fair. He then waves at the constructs, making them disappear, and doing this, he kind of gives him a headache as he's starting to have flashes of just fire and nothing else until he has no choice but just to pass out because it was just too much. He didn't know what was happening. When he wakes up the next morning, alarms are blaring, making his head feel even worse, and he quickly gets up and out of his room, seeing Maki, who tells him where his, official firefighter outfit is. A little hectic for my first day, isn't it? Thinks Shinra. He then starts getting ready as Obi tells everyone what the situation is, and then they would then all get in the fire truck or fire vehicle, and Hinawa immediately hits the gas, heading out. Meanwhile, Obi does some briefing. So, the scene is a factory. Our objective is to save a certain employee. That employee is the wife of the factory manager. We get in, save her, and put her to rest. Time to see what you're made of, Shinra. So when they arrive at the factory, they see the workers and the manager, who would beg the fire soldiers to save his wife. And Shinra, seeing all this chaos and sadness, stumbles back a bit as Maki catches him. Are you okay? Shinra would then nod, and Maki says, "Good. Don't get scared now." "Nah, it's not that. It's just so sad." Maki sees his face and wonders why he is so sad. Even though it is his first mission, he seems so sympathetic, like he feels like it's his fault somehow. And it just seems a bit surreal, as if, he's just blaming himself. He doesn't even know these people. Anyway, the company moves into the factory. Instantly, Shinra would then see a dead body, but is more so surprised than horrified. But then his eyes flare red. "Get down!" Everyone would then do so as Shinra turns around to see flames just burst out towards them, and he points forward, keeping the fires away from everyone. The company then gets up, seeing that he's controlling the infernal flames and keeping them at bay. "Good job, Rookie. Now, we will put this woman to rest," Obi would yell. "Yes, sir." Shinra would then push onward, making the Inferno get flung into a wall. Hinawa then shoots his gun, hitting the Inferno as many times as he can, and Obi rushes in with his axe and slashes her across the chest. He then steps back, and they actually notice that the Inferno isn't moving, and around the creature will be this sort of heat, and they all see the new kid is doing this. Sister, you should start the prayer, says Shinra. Simply by walking forward, he then makes all the flames in the area vanish, shocking all of the company members. But keeping their composition, they would then watch as every step Shinra takes forward, like towards the Inferno, seems to hurt it. And then when he gets close enough, Shinra would then touch the Inferno on the chest as it turns back into a woman, just for a split second, as she says, "Thank you. May you return to the raging flames," Latham, says Iris. As the woman would then turn to dust, and Shinra takes a moment of silence, as does everyone else. However, the silence is then broken as he then feels a pat on the head, and Obi tells him that he did a good job for his first mission. "It seems your ability is pretty similar to Maki's." "Well, sort of. My ability can't be classified." "But you're classified as a third generation," says Hinawa. Shinra would then say, "I'm also classified as a first, second, third, and fourth generation, and thus I'm considered a fifth generation of sorts. I'm what you call an all-rounder." Even Hinawa would be shocked at this point, as would everyone else, and they just say that he needs to let them know about things like that ahead of time, but either way, they know this kid is ridiculously strong. They then head outside and tell the husband that Shinra put the wife to rest, and the husband would then shake his hand with tears filling his eyes. And this is when Shinra gets an idea. "Sir, I have a little gift for you." He then steps back as everyone sees Shinra create a fire construct of the manager's wife, and they are baffled, mumbling and wondering how it can look so much like her. "Can I?" Shinra would then nod at the manager as he touches the fire, which was supposed to burn him, and everyone worries, but he's not hurt at all. He fully hugs this fire construct and cries even more, apologizing for not being able to do anything, as Iris would then say, "Wow." And she's kind of amazed, and Maki would then tease her, asking if she had a crush, but she denies it because she can't have feelings like that because she's part of the church, and but she is blushing a little bit. Anyway, Shinra is pretty happy, and Obi tells him that this would be a good thing if he could do this all the time for all family members, and he says no problem. Now all the factory members then start thanking him, and Obi tells him to wave, but he simply just walks away, and the company wonders why that is. So after this, a few days would pass, and Shinra would be called to Obi's office, where he sees him working out, and he is told that a new member will be joining them. Now after learning this, he would then leave walking in the halls, when he would then hear footsteps. In front of him, he sees this heat signature of someone who does not like him very much. Arthur would then appear instead in front of Shinra. "So, you came here too," says Shinra. "This is a bit of a disappointment. After all that praise, this is where you end up," says Arthur. Now as he says this, the tension between them rises as we switch to the rooftop, seeing Maki create her little fireball. When out of nowhere, Shinra would just arrive, dodging a sword strike from Arthur. Arthur, missing, would then slide forward as he then looks back to look at Shinra, who has his hands in his pocket. "Arthur, this isn't your castle. When will you stop with these delusions?" Arthur's sword would then actually grow a bit more as he then tells Shinra not to mock him, and appearing right in front of him, he strikes down only for Shinra to catch and crush his plasma sword, which should be impossible. He then punches Arthur right in the stomach, and his eyes go blank as he starts to fall, but Shinra catches him and lays him down. "Yeah, have a little nap, buddy. Sorry to disturb you guys." Maki then gets up saying, "So, that's the new recruit, right? He seems kind of obsessed with you." "Well, don't say it like that, it's creepy," says Shinra. The two girls would then laugh, and Hinawa would then walk up on the rooftop, drinking his coffee as usual. And Hinawa would then ask, "What's with the ruckus?" Shinra then explains who Arthur is, explaining everything up to this point. And this is when Hinawa also sees Maki making her little pusu, which is what she calls her little cute flame, yeah. And he extinguishes it with his coffee, which makes her sad, but then he tells her to stop playing with fire because that's not what fire soldiers do. "Yes, sir," Maki would say, despite being a little bit sad. Hinawa would then say, "Anyway, when he wakes up, we'll start our training. Maki will be your opponent." Shinra would then wake up Arthur, who punches him in the face out of instinct. "The lieutenant is here," says Shinra with a fist planted in his face. He then stands up and has no bruises at all, while Arthur is actually holding his hand in pain. Shinra then gives him back his plasma sword, and then he introduces himself to Hinawa in the traditional, knightly way, trying to show off a little bit. So he's then told what they're actually going to be doing, and he'd rather beat up Shinra, but then again, if he beat Maki, he'll be showing how much, more experienced than he is. Not that it means he can beat Shinra, though. So Iris and Hinawa step aside while the two boys stand in front of Maki, who would then get in a southpaw stance. If you don't know what that is, here it is. She then tells them to begin, and Shinra appears right in front of her with a kick. She blocks it, but then gets pushed back, almost actually falling off the edge. "So you have a bit of combat experience," says Maki. "How do you move so fast?" asks Iris. He even pushed back Maki, of all people. Hinawa would then say, "It's simple. Maki might have experience, but Shinra has just brute, pure strength and speed." Maki would then counterattack, rushing at Shinra, but Arthur swings in, he comes in, and she tries to cancel out his plasma sword, but it doesn't work. So instead, she uses technique and manages to knock out the blade from his hand, and she then goes to kick him in the chin. However, Arthur brings down his chin, hitting her knuckles just in the right place, making her actually feel pain. "I'm not so easy, maiden," says Arthur. "That maiden was kicking your ass," says Shinra. Arthur would then scoff at this and rush forward again, but then Maki gets up, and instead of stopping his flame this time, she just turns the flames into her little pusu, and this messes with his plasma sword, and so she gets a few more hits in, so that hurts for Arthur. Shinra then flies up and looks down on her. "Come on!" "Sure," he would say, as Shinra then drops, using his flames to just, create a huge and powerful axe kick. However, midway, his flames then get cancelled out by Maki. "Nice try," says Shinra. His flames then reactivate, shocking her as Shinra only increases his speed even more and comes down, and before she knew it, Maki was almost hit by his leg, which was right above her nose. "Shall we continue?" Showing a demonic smile, Maki would then just give up and Shinra stops smiling as he puts his foot down and apologizes for the creepy smile. He says that he does that when he's fired up a little bit, And she says it's fine and congratulates him, as Iris says Shinra was really strong, and Maki was thinking that if that hit her, she would be so dead, and this whole building would probably collapse right now. But Arthur is pretty pissed, since he's never actually managed to beat Shinra before. "We're not at the academy anymore, so don't expect things to go like they did before," thinks Arthur. So a few more days will pass, and an emergency will be called in, and the alarms go crazy once again, so everyone gets in gear. Of course, including Arthur, who has become part of the team. So as they're going to the area, Arthur is told to conceal his weapon, and Shinra didn't take a weapon this time because he says he can also make weapons out of fire. And they arrive at the house and see a crying daughter who will be covered in a coat, lamenting on what she had just seen. Obi then tells everyone to prepare to enter, but before they do, Obi has to take Arthur for a sidebar, as well as the other soldiers, and he tells Arthur that he has to hide Excalibur. "But why? Excalibur is my pride and joy." Shinra then cuts in, because when we put people to rest, we're basically just killing them. That sword won't help ease how the citizens feel, you idiot. Yeah, took the words right out of my mouth, says Obi. So as Arthur starts to understand this, Shinra would then sense something dangerous as a skull of fire bursts out of the house's balcony, and this flame turns into what looks like a smiling face, and everyone saw this. "What the fuck?" says Shinra. The team would then head inside as Hinawa tells Shinra to lead them to where the infernal is, since it seems that he can sense them somehow. And he does, and they follow behind him as they then see the infernal just sitting down in the kitchen, not really doing anything. The creature was so calm it had not burned anything it was around, and was actually welcoming the firefighters. This is when Arthur takes care of the infernal while Iris prays, and Shinra would then see the family pictures all around and gets pissed, exuding them some sort of bloodlust, but then, calms him down. It's alright. He's in a better place now. No, he's not, thought Shinra. So after this, they would then get ready to go when fire spurges out of the walls and brings down the ceiling. Obi would then catch the ceiling, getting a bit pissed off, wondering what the hell is going on because the Inferno is already finished. So they finally leave, and Shinra gives the daughter one last moment with her father, and it calms her down as the constructs even talks about what it was going to say, like the last thing it was going to say before it was beginning to disintegrate. But the girl still thought that she was going to burn and hoped that if she did, she would do so peacefully and join her dad and her mom. So after this, everyone goes back to the company, and after this, Shinra asks if he can go visit his mom. We then find him in Obi's office as he puts down a dumbbell he was lifting. "Oh, are you okay? Is she okay?" "Completely fine, sir." Why is this kid still hiding something, Obi would think. He allows Shinra to leave, and so he thanks the captain. He leaves the office and starts running and doesn't stop. He does so until he's outside, and with the blow of smoke out of his mouth, Shinra's body just flares up with fire as he blasts through the city, and when he stops, we find him in front of a hospital. He then goes in and goes to the counter. "I'm here to see the patient in room 5. "Oh, nice to see you again. Go right ahead. There's no problem," says the receptionist. Shinra then thanks the receptionist and heads to the room, and that room would be his mother in a coma, where she has been for the last few years. He then holds her hand. "Hey, Mom, still looking for show? I'm getting close though. I can feel it. Just a little more, and things will be back to normal. Well, as normal as life gets when you're me." He then looks at his arm, and it gets engulfed in fire as it turns into a dragon claw, and it's covered in red scales. It then goes back to normal, and just sighs and stays with her for a while essentially talking about how things have been, as if she could hear him. Now, time skips to when the Newcomer tournament begins, and this means that their fight with Maki was a bit of a warm-up to also test them. So rookies from the 8th Company are brought to Hajima Industries, where a lot of firefighters, or fire soldiers if you want to say, will be gathered up. So Shinra would be in his own little corner this time, playing with his flames. Meanwhile, Arthur would meet Maki and get in an accident. And if you know, well, not Maki, Tamaki. Yeah, he would meet Tamaki. You don't know her. Well, she's literally the definition of lewd by accident. So I don't know how else to just watch the show. So all of the captains, high-ranked pyrokinetics, and people with high status are sitting in stands protecting them from the sun, which is pretty ironic. And they're just watching the fight. And this is when Leonard walks out and he sees Shinra as he turns around to see him sitting down. It's him. So he really did choose the 8th Company. He then stares at him for a bit until Shinra looks up and he looks at him with his eyes flaring, and Shinra recognizes him but ignores him. Leonard then sighs and walks away, making everyone interested since Leonard really pays no attention to most people, especially a newcomer. So after a while, everyone is suited up and standing next to each other as the rules would then be explained. They are to run through the building in front of them and pretend as if it is a building on fire, and they are to save people. And they get a company member posing as an infernal quickly. Now, there's also people to save, other people posing as, rescuees. Now, as soon as the signal is given, everyone runs forward, but Shinra looks up as he slams his right foot down, and fire bursts from his feet, catapulting him up. "That's so cheap," Arthur would yell. Everyone would then start moving fast into the building, just as Shinra front flips and breaks through a window and lands safely while skidding across the floor. Standing up, he then looks around and sees it's just like a horrible place. It's, burnt up, some broken things, glass everywhere. Alright, let's just take things slow. Honestly, it doesn't matter whether or not I win. It's not like I'll be kicked off my squad or anything. He then starts walking forward with his hands in his pocket when he sees the person that's supposed to be posing as an infernal knocked out on the floor, and he tenses up as out of the corner walks out a man dragging a fellow fire soldier that was supposed to be posing as a rescuee. The man was wearing a hat, a bandana covering his left eye, and he was smoking a cigarette. "So, now that I've taken care of the rubbish, I'm guessing you have questions about that fire." Now, as he says this, Shinra gets flashes of the fire in his house and a great explosion, but he doesn't know what the great explosion is, because that's not what happened in his house. "Who the hell are you?" "No one special." He would then go to kill the 2 men lying on the floor, and Shinra would stare at him, making him freeze, and he realizes his powers don't work. "Wow, this kid is a bit more dangerous than I thought the Joker." He would then spit out a cigarette as Shinra appears with a punch to his gut, and he gets kicked in the face, and then he gets sent flying into a wall right on the side. Bouncing right back, he then spits out blood however, his powers do come back, and when he gets his powers, he creates fire cards as he throws them at Shinra, who then catches the cards in his hands and then crushes them. "Wait, let's talk about your brother. He's alive, "Of course I know. I can feel him, even to this day." Joker would be surprised to hear this, as he would then go to ask how his mother is doing, but this pisses off Shinra. "Whoever you are, if you dare— Hey, weirdo, what are you doing?" Shinra then turns around to see Arthur and Tamaki, and his eyes widen. In an instant, outside, all the captains see an explosion occur as fire bursts out of everywhere in the building. However, the explosion then starts being sucked back into the building as we see Shinra absorb the fire from the explosion entirely. When he's done with this, he then sighs as smoke comes out of his mouth. "You guys okay?" What generation are you?" asked Tamaki. Shinra, however, will not answer this as he grabs the 2 knocked out firemen and jumps up, kicking the metal ceiling and melting through it, and all the surrounding watchers see him pop out of the building. He then lands down safely, seeing all the debris from the explosion. He lets go of the 2 men and gently lays them down. Luckily, they're still alive. Obi and the 8th Company would then come over and check if he was okay and if they were okay, and Leonard would then walk up, saying, "Nice to see you again. The feeling's mutual, sir." "How do you know Captain Burns?" whispers Maki. Leonard then asks what exactly happened, and Shinra says some man came in and caused an explosion, so he absorbed the explosion and brought these 2 out here, but he thinks that just for today, they should probably stop the tournament. Absorbing fire, huh? Hell of a new trick. He then walks past Shinra, telling him that he did a good job, and everyone wonders what their relationship, is. Shinra then thinks, so this confirms the feeling I've been having. Sho really is alive. And all I have to do is just find him. I have to meet that guy again. He then just turns around looking at Leonard just as he's leaving, and so this incident is over, and this matter is to be investigated immediately. And Shinra wants in on this to find the guy, and given what he did, he might be a pretty bad person anyway, so you gotta find him. And this guy is given the alias Joker. And during the investigation, Arthur and Shinra will be sent out to rescue a dog, and this is when for the first time Shinra gets introduced to one of the dogs from 119. So if you don't know what 119 is, it's specifically these 3 animals that were affected by the cataclysm in some sort of way, and the radiation kind of changed them into a sort of human-animal hybrid. I think that's how it goes, right? If I'm wrong, tell me down in the comments. So seeing this type of stuff from like the cataclysm, the results of the cataclysm, once again, Shinra is conflicted, as after this he wanted to take a stroll on his own after he saved the dog, but the dog wanted help with something. So he and Arthur help him sell balloons, and as they're doing this in the streets giving balloons to kids, they see a fire vehicle from their company arrive, blaring alarms everywhere, telling people to make way. Hinawa, who was driving, would then tell the two that there was a certain issue at a courthouse where a convicted murderer has become an infernal. So, hearing this, Shinra calmly hands the balloon back to the dog named Mamoru and runs, bursting with flames, as he then leaps into the skies and flies away as fast as possible to the destination. "Dang it, Shinra, wait for me! Take me with you," yelled Arthur. "Just get in here before I make you regret ever existing," says Hinawa. Arthur then says, "Yes, sir," obviously being scared, and Maki says, "Don't be so agitated, sir. If it's Shinra, I'm sure he'll be fine." So we now go to the courthouse as the Infernal actually is conscious and is dragging out his own lawyer while he's begging for his life. This is when the Infernal just gets sent flying out of the courthouse and into the street. What in the... You would then see Shinra in front of him as he gets just kicked and slammed in the face, and he gets sent flying once again, but Shinra instantly appears where he's going and stops him while palm striking him in the back and heating his hands up. This leaves a hole in his stomach, as Shinra then throws him away because, his hand was in his body, so he was stuck in him, so he threw him away. Now, as all this happens, the Infernal struggles to get up and sees that Shinra is actually walking towards him again. "This guy's not much different from me. He's enjoying this," thought the Infernal. The Infernal would then try to regenerate, but couldn't, and wondered why, and this is when the rest of the fire company arrives, and he blinds them and flies into the sky, while still being injured, of course. "Get over here," yells Shinra as he appears above him in a flash, as he pushes back his comrades just from the sheer, power that he, used to jump up. "Damn, this kid's got some firepower," yells Obi. Shinra then slams a punch in his back, sending him down very fast, as in the middle of the street, who would then just crash there, cratering into the road. People in the city would then see this and start panicking, and Shinra would then land down and grab the Infernal by its head, just slowly crushing it, preparing to turn it into nothing. However, this is when a woman lands in front of him, and she was wearing a dress underneath a really nice, hooded firefighter uniform. She would then flap her fan, saying, "Special Fire Company Commander Princess Hibana and her squad will dispose of this Infernal. You may leave now." Shinra, however, crushes the Infernal's head and says, "Fuck you," as he turns into nothing, and it starts to disintegrate. He then stands up and wipes himself off. "I apologize, but by the order of my leader, I was to seek out and destroy this Infernal." "So you just committed insubordination, huh, Fire Mage? What is with that nickname?" Now, as he says this, he would then feel overwhelming heat and stumble forward a bit as Hibana starts to just smirk. However, Shinra then stands up, cracking his neck and saying, "What part of what I just told you sounded like insubordination?" He would then be surrounded by Angels 3, who are 3 women in skimpy, tight spandex firefighter uniforms, as Hibana then says, "Make him kneel." The 3 would then hold on to Shinra, but as they do, they feel their hands burn and they back away in pain as Shinra starts to walk towards Hibana, who once again uses her power. However, Shinra would just keep walking forward, unaffected, and he walks past her as he then flies away. Now, as this happens, Hibana would feel embarrassed. "How dare he ignore me? Me! I'm Princess Hibana. How could that kid resist me?" Now, as she says this, the rest of her company comes out, and this is when the 8th company arrives on the scene, and Obi would ask if she saw Shinra. She says nothing and turns around, making Iris clench her hands together, and she's a bit worried. "Oh, he probably just went back to the base. Let's go, guys," says Obi. They would then get in the fire vehicle and go back home, and we then cut to the next day when Obi and Hinawa will be watching over Arthur and Shinra's training. But instead of Maki training the two, it's just more like the two of them going up against Shinra. Now, as they're training, Hinawa would then ask Shinra, "What did you think of the 5th company?" Shinra would then block an incoming kick from Maki and a slice from, Arthur, and he looks at Hinawa saying, "They're despicable." "Well, don't be reckless, they're still higher ranked than us," says Obi. "Hurting one of them means war." So saying that, time passes and everything just goes really quiet. However, that very night, Sister Iris would go to the home of Hibana, and being allowed in, she comes to see the captain, who is Hibana. Hibana, who would be sitting on her throne, would then stand up and walk across her lined up Fire Force members, crushing their backs with her heels and kicking them, and they're actually enjoying it because she's hot. And she slowly walks up to Iris, who was a bit scared because she's changed so much. "What the hell do you want?" Iris would then say, "What you're doing, it's something really dangerous, eldest sister. There are rumors about you experimenting on infernals. This is a violation against the laws of the Sun God." "Oh, you think so, huh?" Just then, an explosion will be heard as we then go to the gates, and Shinra walks out from a smoke cloud. "Where is she?" "Identify yourself," yells one of the fire soldiers. "The name's Shinra Kusakabe, and I'm gonna ask you again, where is Sister Iris?" However, he gets no answer as a big firefighter just goes to punch him, but that man would get punched himself, falling into the ground, just like cratering into it, unconscious. How did he do that? We don't know what generation he is. Stay on guard. Hinawa and Tamaki would then arrive as he nods at them and they nod back, and he then runs fast and very nimbly through the fire soldiers, and they can't keep up. Now as he keeps running, Shinra will then look around for the weakest heat signature, and he sees where Sister Iris is. Realizing where she is, he would then think back to when he saw her last, and she looked kinda sad. I should have said something, he thought. He then runs even faster, boosting himself with fire as we then cut to Sister wearing a Company 5 coat, and she's on the ground a bit scared since, she was alone. And Hibana burned her clothes, and she heard everyone say that some fast kid was heading to the mansion, so it's a full-on battle. She doesn't know what's going on. Stay here and watch this kid burn like the rat he is. Why are you doing this? I just came here to talk to you. Shinra would then burst in, demanding that Hibana let Iris go, and he walks forward. This is when Hibana uses her power once again, but she amplifies the heat. However, Shinra would then smile as she stumbles to the ground. Feeling the heat? Yeah, not fun, is it? How is this possible? You're just a little worm. Shinra then increases the heat surrounding her, and at this point she can't even catch her breath. This shouldn't be possible. You can't copy my heat syncope. But you forgot about one thing. My control over fire is higher than yours. I can remove so much heat from your body, you'll start to freeze over. He then does so as she loses her headache and the pain, but a new one takes place as she starts to shiver and shake, and she can see frost forming up her legs. She can see her breath. Stop, wait, stop, it hurts. Did you ever wonder if what you did hurt Iris? Of course I did, but there was no other way. I just hate this. Shinra then stops using his ability, and she retains her, normal heat temperature, and he then says, then just stop it, or I'm gonna have to come back and show you where you belong. Iris will then run over, telling Shinra to calm down, saying, it's clear you've beaten her, don't go too far. You're too nice. Being caring has its limits, You okay? Iris will then nod and, care for Hibana. She, he apologizes for taking things too far, but Hibana kind of deserved it. Now, as this happens, Obi and Maki would have just uncovered some of the Fifth Company's research, and they were sure there was something suspicious with them, and he was right, and he reported this to their higher-ups about it. So after a while of snooping around, this is when Hibana would be feeling a little bit better. They're just walking around, and she walks into see her company is completely fucked. Her company is they messed up everything. All her members they got their asses beat. This is when Iris actually suggests that they have a little feast for both companies to fix things up and patch things up. Hibana agrees because she honestly doesn't want to make Iris sad, and she's also starting to warm up to Shinra in a way that surprised even herself. So the companies would meet up, and Obi as well as Hibana talk a bit about what she's found out over the years and what all her research has been about. All her research points to one conclusion: someone is manually creating infernals somehow, like man-made infernals. So agreeing a bit with Hibana's ideal, no matter how crazy she is, the 5th and 8th companies start an alliance, and as the days come to pass, Hibana keeps staying at the 8th company like a lot more. One day when Hibana comes in, she was told that Shinra was training on the rooftop. When she came to the rooftop, she'd be holding a bento. Hey, do you want some of this new food I made? She then sees Shinra standing unmoving when out of nowhere he splits into 6, creating a perfect fire clone that actually looks more lifelike. It actually has color, it's not just fire. How is that even possible? Shinra would then look to her, saying hi, as she then blushes, starting to have some creative thoughts. And he returns back to normal, however, as he comes over to her. Taking the bento, they then sit down together and he starts eating. And Hibana would then ask, since when could he do that? Oh, I just thought of it yesterday and I wanted to try, so I did. You just did. Yep. Shinra, do you know the reason why you were wanted by all the companies? Because I'm unbelievably strong? Hibana would then say, you're definitely honest, but yes, but also, you might possess what is called an Adula burst. You have shown that you have powers from every generation. That should be impossible, so suspicious people may come after you. Don't show off too much. Shinra would then thank her for the advice, but he says, don't worry, no one can beat me. I don't know if he's joking or if he's just carefree, but honestly, it doesn't matter. So he and Hibana would then talk a bit, and he finds out a bit more about the Adula burst, and he might have a special type one that makes him unbelievably strong and just gives him control over all fire. He might be one of the strongest pyrokinetics to ever live. Honestly, he's pretty close to a captain's level. However, it doesn't specify what kind of Adula he might have, and soon Maki would come to the rooftop as she would then tell them that the captain has a plan. When everyone is in Obi's office, he would then tell them the plan. Shinra, you and Arthur are gonna infiltrate the first company. I want you to go to their acceptance exam. Wait, are we being fired? Arthur would ask. No, you're infiltrating. Stupid knight. What'd you say? Oi would then calm down Arthur, and Hibana then sends some of her men to go with them. Now, when they get to the church, like the cathedral of the first company, they have to enlist, and they meet Karim, the lieutenant who brings them to Leonard Burns, you know, the captain of the squad. Maki is also there, and she introduces herself and what her squad is and what the reason for being here is today. Leonard would then say, glad to have you. These three on my side are called Karim Flam, Hu Yan Li, and Reka Hoshimiya. You're just gonna have to observe for today, and then you can rest. They're my trusted lieutenants, so feel free to rely on them. However, Shinra would then raise his hand just as they're being dismissed. If I may intrude, I've always wondered how large the gap between us is. The others would then panic at, him challenging the captain of the first company and, tell him to watch his mouth. Sir, he's just joking, says Maki. Reka, the star-eyed member would then say, they call you the fire mage, right? Well, as strong as you are, there's no need for such a fight. However, Leonard would actually allow it, actually exciting Reka, because he's that type of person, but Shinra has a condition. If he tires out Leonard, he can ask a question, and Leonard has to answer truthfully. But now everyone else has to fight since Reka is too fired up to let them just rest, so they all get to the training grounds. First up for fighting is Reka versus Takeru, aka, Juggernaut. And during their fight, when Reka gets too carefree, and, he lets one of Takeru's, fire attacks almost hit people, this is when Karim shows off his ability and surprises everyone. Oh, so there's someone who can do that too, thinks Shinra. Karim then explains his abilities, and by this point, Shinra just being way smarter. He's already starting to make assumptions based on what he's seen, and based, on his heightened senses. He listens closely to their heartbeats for when they lie about something. The next fight would then be Hu Yanli versus Toru of the Fifth Company, but they don't want to clash, so the final fight comes to Shinra, who is pinned against Leonard alone this time. I'm all up for training, but is this really the right idea, sir? Reka would ask. Don't worry, you can handle it. His right eye would then be lit on fire as Shinra's eyes would then flare in a shockwave would be felt as he appears right in front of Leonard with a punch. When the punch lands, Leonard catches it thinking that it won't do too much damage when all of a sudden he hears a crack. Everyone would then hear this crack as well, assuming that was Shinra's arm. However, as Shinra jumps back and lands, Leonard can't even lift his right arm and it has gone completely numb, shocking everyone. Tamaki, who had just arrived outside the training field, would then see this and be mad, saying, I never thought he could actually be able to hurt the captain. Who is this guy? Are we done? Asked Shinra. Leonard would then say that he still has one good arm left, and using his ignition ability, he gets surrounded by fire as his body starts to steam, and he lunges forward at untraceable speeds. Shinra does the same thing, grinning as he dodges the punch from Burns, and using his left hand, he grabs his face and slams it into the ground. Where did he come from? Asked Karim. How can he actually hurt the captain? Shinra would then take his hand off. Are we done yet? Leonard then realizes from the beginning that Shinra wasn't asking, and he can feel the bloodlust emanating off of him. Cheeky little brat. Yes, I am. He then quickly gets up, kicking at Shinra, who blocks this kick, and then for a moment, Leonard actually goes into his highest stage of Voltage Nova, which is his special ignition ability, that's what it's called. And he buffs up all the way, and his skin heats up. He actually looks like he's freaking magma right now. And he throws a massive punch to Shinra's stomach, sending him flying, but only about 5 feet away. He doesn't even lift off the ground. How is he standing right now? Maki would ask, as they just imagined themselves getting punched by the captain in that way, because that shit would fuck you up. Arthur would then say, I used to call Shinra a weirdo. Everyone then looks at him wondering how the hell he's still alive. But he's not a weirdo, he's just closed off. To me, he's never really felt human though. Ever since I've met him, he just has this insane control over fire and heat. We then do a flashback to the academy as we see Shinra and Arthur about to fight, and already the other cadets were, betting on Shinra. Arthur would then scoff at these comments, saying, Hey you, I don't know why everyone's so obsessed with you, but today, my Excalibur will break your streak. Now, as they hear the whistle from the instructor, Arthur appears swinging down at Shinra, and he was grinning, thinking that he had won. But then he realizes that Shinra already caught his plasma sword. This is gonna hurt, says Shinra. He then gets kicked in the stomach so fast that no one could even see his feet move, but Arthur gets sent flying anyway, and he just lands and skids across the floor right into a wall. The last thing he sees before actually passing out, though, was Shinra being the first to come and help him, and the other cadets join. Why, Arthur thought, why can't I cut you? Now returning to the present, Arthur would then smile nervously, saying, If it's Shinra, I think it's fine to believe he can beat anyone. He's less of a mage and more of a A dragon. Yeah, a dragon. Everyone then saw Shinra be pushed back, but the punch actually had no impact on him at all, and his mouth steams. Are we done yet? Burns would then deactivate his ability, but he's still steaming a little bit. Yeah, I'm tired. But before I end this fight, I have a question for you. Why did you become a fire soldier? So I could have a family again. Silence would then fall as everyone there is just frozen and they don't know how to react, and Burns then smiles thanking Shinra for the fight, and he says that they can talk later in his office. Shinra then stops exuding this bloodlust and apologizes, saying, "Sorry, I lose myself sometimes when I'm mad." He was so mad a second ago, and now he's apologizing. What a weird kid, thinks Leonard. So Leonard starts to leave, and this is when Tamaki runs in asking what just happened, and she runs to Reika, who stops him from touching him due to her Lucky Luge syndrome. If you don't know what that is, go read the anime or go watch the anime or read the manga. He then puts her down as she looks at Shinra and asks for his name. Yours first, it's just common courtesy. So she would start a bit of an argument. Meanwhile, Arthur would be mad, asking who he was going to fight, and so Karim would step up, saying they were going to fight, and so they did. Karim won though, even though Arthur it was very impressive, honestly. He's really OP, but you know, plasma, Karim can freeze almost anything. So after this, Tamaki is told to show the guests around, you know, and so Arthur and Shinra have to share a room with the other members of the company from the 5th company, and their staying period would last for 5 days. And on the 5th day, Shinra wakes up, yawns as fire bursts out of his mouth. He then walks to the window and opens it to see Hinawa and Hibana. Guys, you don't have to keep doing this. We can take care of ourselves. Ever since that incident, it's hard not to get wrapped up in all this, says Hinawa. Shinra would then say, it was just a little mess. Not that many people saw it. Hibana would then walk over, yelling while whispering, saying, this isn't a joke. What you did could have destroyed the balance of everything. Burns is a very strong and respected man, but you managed to injure him and take on supposedly his strongest punch. Shinra would then say, look, it's fine. Besides, I asked him, and he doesn't know anything, so he's in the clear. Well, we can't just trust his words, says Hinawa. Shinra would then say that he suspects someone else is lying about their true objective, and that person being Reika. How are you so sure, asks Hibana. Shinra would then say, first off, he smiles and acts way too happy. That's strange. And also, I gave him a sort of lie detector test when we sparred. He failed it. You can do that? Hinawa would ask. Shinra would then tell them that everything is under control, so they don't gotta worry. Besides, people might get suspicious that they're visiting so much. So they would go away, and soon everyone wakes up, and the group soon, wakes up, everyone wakes up, and they start talking to each other and about each other. Arthur would then be keen on one thing, though, about something that happened a few days ago. How did you do what you did last time, withstanding a captain's blow? I didn't do anything, I'm just resistant to fire, it can't burn me, and also, I'm a good brawler. Takeru would then say, but that's still a captain, though. Shinra doesn't really know what to say and shrugs her shoulders because that's just the way he is. Toru would then blow a bubble thinking, and I almost insulted his captain. Wow, I dodged one hell of a bullet. Now as they're talking, Tamaki would then run in and the alarms are going off and an inferno has been sighted, and so they all get ready and head out with Karim leading Arthur, and Shinra goes along with the other members. Yeah. Now as they're talking, Tamaki would then run in and the alarms are going off and an inferno has been sighted, so they all get ready and head out with Karim leading Arthur and Shinra, and they go along with the other members. Now they're told that there's actually 5 infernals and they're scattered through the area, so this is a bit dangerous. Now when they arrive, they get out of the fire vehicle and their first priority is to make sure all the citizens are safe. What the fuck is wrong with me? What the face safe? Nah, that was a disgrace. Anyway, I'm sorry about that. So Arthur would then ask, so what's our mission? If newcomers get mixed up in this, it might get confusing, so for now, just like the captain said, observe, says Karim. So Shinra would do, as he says, and Arthur does the same begrudgingly. However, Shinra keeps his infrared vision on, and if you don't know what that is, if I haven't made that specific enough, when his eyes focus on like a heat signature of some sorts, he can kind of see heat signatures, and it's just a special little power. And so if he sees anyone from the first company doing anything suspicious, he'll notice it. And in his infrared, vision of some sorts, he can kind of see a certain shape for every different pyrokinetic. For example, when he looks at Arthur, the shape of his heat around him turns into an obelisk, which also strangely resembles a sword. Come on, try something, I dare you, thinks Shinra. Now as he's looking around, he would then notice Reika's fire signature as he sneaks from behind a man from an alley. As Reka is about to inject something in the man, he would then be caught as Shinra holds his hand, saying, "Oh, Reka-senpai, were you about to tell this man something?" Reka would then smile nervously a bit, and Shinra feels his heartbeat increase, and the man who was about to be injected would then turn around confused. "Gotcha," thinks Shinra. Shinra would then let go of him, and Reka said, "I was about to warn him to go somewhere else and stay safe." Thank you, sir. You're right, I should probably go find my friends." He then leaves after bowing, and Shinra and Reka only smile at each other and say nothing else. "I have to be more cautious of you, don't I?" thinks Reka. So we then cut to later when Shinra is in the sleeping quarters talking to Arthur, who would ask why he did what he did before. Arthur, "Reka is dangerous." "That guy? Come on, I'm not joking." What he was holding. We then flash back to when Shinra saw Reka about to inject the man, and Shinra saw a dark flame grow as it approached the man, and it was in Reka's hands. Like, that must have been what he was trying to inject. Just trust me. If you see Hinawa or Hibana, tell them to keep an eye on him, but right now, we're gonna check out his room. Arthur would then put on his assassin disguise, but then he realizes, I'm a fucking knight, so I'm not trying to look like a ninja. So, yeah, anyway, they would then sneak into Reka's room and try not to leave a trace, as Shinra makes his finger into fire, and he puts it in the keyhole, slowly hardening it to fit the exact hole, of the key, and then he just twists it, opening the door. "I could have done better had you let me actually do it." He then scoffs, entering, and Shinra sighs, and yeah. So they go through Reka's stuff and find a bunch of bugs in jars and in one of his cabinets. Now, as they find this, Shinra senses someone entering and puts his foot up to his or her neck, only to realize it was Karim, and Arthur then hits him on the head, calling him impulsive. Karim then says it's fine, as he has also been trying to figure out why and what Reka is doing. And after this confrontation, he shows them that he managed to get one of the bugs. So Shinra decides to go find Reka and stop him once and for all. And even though Karim tells him it's dangerous, he knows that Shinra can beat Reka since he's seen him spar before, and the difference is too vast between them, obviously in Shinra's favor. So Shinra will look for Reka for a while, as soon the sun starts to set, and this is when he senses him and a bunch of other people at an abandoned building. Stopping in midair, he then senses a presence disappear, as he then also sees it happen. A boy died. All that heat inside of the kid just exploded out. That son of a bitch. Blasting at full speed, we then see Reka about to punch Tamaki when he crashes into the ground with Shinra's foot planted in his face, and his face was in a crater now. Shinra then saw Maki beat up and was pissed, as he then also saw the scared kids and one dead one with his head blown off and had a hole in his heart. Shinra quickly picks up Reka as he goes to, start punch Shinra, filling his hand with heat, but as he throws it, Shinra just smacks it down, holding him by the neck, and Shinra just slaps Reka, making his tooth pop out. "Let me go. Don't get in my way. These kids." He would then be backhanded and another tooth pops out, and Shinra's hands would just tighten around his neck as he uses Hibana's technique. This would actually instantly knock out Reka, and he drops like a pebble. "You guys okay?" Saying this to the kids, they would then cry and run to Shinra as he tried to comfort them, and seeing this, Maki would then be sad that someone she admired and kinda had a crush on was such a dirtbag and a fucking psycho. Hyo Young Lee and Karim would then enter the scene, running in as they see Reka on the ground, out cold. "Reka, just what were you doing?" Shinra, after comforting the kids, would then go to check on Tamaki, who was getting help from Hyo Young Lee, and she trips forward, but Shinra dodges to the left and catches her in his arms. "You good?" "Yeah, I'm fine, thanks." She then, goes a bit red as Shinra can hear her heart pounding, and he's heard this sound before, like a lot, from a lot of other girls. She has a crush. However, Shinra ignores this heartbeat or whatever, and he walks to Reka as with everyone else, but Hyo Young Lee stays with the kids, and this is when we go to the outside of the abandoned building to see two men. One will be squatting down with his hand strung up as he was holding a bow, an invisible bow, and a white veil covers both of these men's faces, as one of the men would then create a bow and arrow made of fire. Target, Reka Hoshimiya. Releasing his bow, he then shoots an attack aimed at Reka, who was lying on the ground. However, something clicks as Shinra stands up, turning around, and he gets hit in the chest, just pushing everyone back. Shinra's uniform would then be lit on fire as his top half just burns off for a moment, showing a sort of glisten, and these are his scales, which activate constantly, subconsciously, whenever he gets an attack like that. Getting on guard, everyone then gets ready to fight, activating their powers, and Hyo Young Lee starts to run away with the kids, since clearly they're only after Reka, so, try to keep the people who weren't involved safe. This is when Shinra would have no choice but to use his cloning technique and make a separate exact version of himself, surprising everyone. That clone then jumps out of the window, launching at the two men outside. The real Shinra then turns around saying, "Someone's been watching us this entire time." "An assassination," says Karim. The clone then comes back to the area, having knocked out the two assailants who were spying and trying to kill Reika because he was going to spill the beans probably if they got him. So they got their asses completely beat, and they will be laid out on the floor, and the clone re-enters Shinra, and the group then approaches the three laid out people on the body. Luckily, they were all still breathing, and so they could still question them. "Just what is going on? Who are these guys?" Tamaki would ask. Now, as she asked this, Karim would then get a call saying that there was an abnormal infernal out on the streets, but luckily Captain Burns is, already on the scene. Shinra would then put the two knocked out guys over his shoulder and said that he wanted to take these two to be interrogated, but he actually trusts the first company will be able to do it just as well. "Maybe we can help each other out. Clearly, these people are from some dangerous organization. You're really just gonna hand over these guys to me? You barely know me." Shinra would then say, "Can I tell you something? When I was a kid, my brother was kidnapped and my mom almost died. She's been in a coma for years up until now. Captain Burns is the one who helped me put in some money for her bills. He's the one that helped put me in school. If that guy trusts you, then I trust you." Karim would then smile, thanking Shinra for helping out, and Reika would have died if he didn't intervene, and now maybe they have the chance to put him on the right path again. So returning to the first company, soon Leonard would return, and after beating the abnormal inferno, he would then be told what happened with Reika and what Shinra did. Shinra also tells him to go back to the abandoned building and pick up the dead kid's ashes, so the families could know what happened and have a proper funeral, even though it was sad, So the next morning, Shinra and the others leave, and they go back to their own companies, and the next few days would consist of researching things and, do the best that they can to find out the truth. And the best thing is, Shinra actually kept one of the bugs and gave it to Hibana as a gift, and she loved this since she could now find out how people were making infernals and how they're being created. So a few more days would pass, as soon Obi is actually going to a conference with all the other captains being there, and Shinra was going to go as well, as with Tamaki, who actually has to stay in the 8th company now for punishment, because she still led Reika to the kids and she wasn't thinking clearly. That's her fault. Shinra would then say, "Do I have to? Got something better else to do?" asked Obi. "Maybe sleep?" says Shinra. Obi would then say he has to come because he's specifically actually being called in, which shocks him. So they head out and arrive, walking past the eternal fire, generator, the Amaterasu generator, whatever. This is when Shinra actually saw the plant for the first time, and his eyes flare up as he felt like he could just go and reach it and just touch it. "What are you doing?" Obi would ask. "Oh, nothing. Should we move? Let's move on." He then starts walking ahead, hands in pockets, as Tamaki would then ask why Shinra looks so sad most of the time. "That's not for me to tell. I'm afraid you're gonna have to ask him yourself." He then goes forward, and Tamaki falls behind, being nervous about asking Shinra. Now on the way, they meet Hibana before they go in, and then they enter, and Shinra sees Karim again. "Hey, Karim senpai, what's up?" Let's talk later." Shinra would see that he's clearly sad and he wants to help, but right now he also has to give him some space because he looks like he's going through some stuff. Alright, later then. So Shinra goes up and opens the big door in front of him, and he enters the church and sees all the captains sitting down. He then looks at none of them and just finds a seat and sits down, but then he feels the stares piercing him. Minus Benimaru, because he can give less of a fuck. So he managed to hurt Leonard Burns, so they're wondering if he's an enemy. Obviously, the incident was covered up and no one else knows. No one else knows. So his Leonard Burns, his popularity is still up because they can't just let people know that a kid hurt Burns of all people. So, however, as they're staring at him, the Emperor of Tokyo, the Tokyo Empire, would then come out and sit down in front of everyone. Standing up, everyone would then greet the old man, and after this, they sit down and the Emperor talks. "There have been certain and bizarre cases of combustion lately. This is caused by the men in the white hoods. Even your own subordinate could be working for them, but regardless, you are to treat this group as heretics and wipe them out. They're known as the evangelists, and they struck before. Now they're coming back, stronger than ever, it seems." Everyone then agrees on this, but Benimaru says he doesn't have to, and he leaves, and he gets cautioned, but he really does not care because he's not part of the Empire actually, and he hasn't sworn anything to their sun god or the Empire at all. So he leaves, and as he does, this is when the Emperor sets his eyes on Shinra. "So, you're the famous fire mage. I don't remember appointing myself that name, sir. It is simply a nickname." The Emperor would then laugh, "But you do have the Abdullah burst, correct?" Shinra would then look down and he says, "Yes, that flame outside. I was drawn to it, but I'd rather just not become a big deal. The captain, wearing a bird mask, would then talk, saying, "It's hard to ignore someone with so much control over flames. Should we maybe put the boy under protection?" Shinra would then look at the man, saying, "To be honest, sir, I'm better on my own. I haven't even come close to showing my true abilities. I'll protect myself and those around me, thank you." Hibana would then say, "Besides, you shouldn't be getting involved with the 8th Company's issues. Everyone should just do their own job." The Emperor would then say, "You were drawn to the flame? Now that is new. To be honest, I don't know how my powers work, and no one else does either, so it's a bit concerning, but I'm sure I'll manage. If you feel a connection to the flame, then be sure to protect it. After all, my boy, it is a gift." Hearing these words makes Shinra have a bit of a headache as he actually kind of stumbles back, getting more flashes. And the Emperor, seeing this, would then tell Shinra to calm down and, sit down. And, it's okay, you can sit down, bro. And so the meeting continues. Soon, when the meeting does end, and they leave, Shinra actually leaves first and goes to Karim and hears that the evangelist's goal is to turn the world into the second sun, which is crazy as hell. They will be outside in the courtyard of the church, and Shinra told everyone to go on ahead and that he'll come home soon on his own. This is when Karim would actually say that Rekka and the other 2 men committed suicide by biting down on their teeth, poisoning themselves, and yeah. Shinra would then say, I'm sorry. No, it was our fault for not seeing that coming. It's pretty common for hardcore gangs or groups to do that. I just didn't know he had fallen that far. You should probably get home. Don't worry, I'll deal. Just stay safe, alright, says Shinra. Karim then nods and leaves, as Shinra does the same and he starts walking back home. On his way though, he's walking through the city and he would stop, taking off his cap. "I know you're there." "So, you're not gonna rage like before," says the Joker, as he comes out from the alley, smiling as usual. "What would be the point of that? Clearly you just came here to talk." "Bronze and brains, lucky me. But I did come here to talk. How about your brother? Sho Kusakabe, was it? He's part of the evangelist, for sure." This would actually stunt Shinra as his eyes flare up and he clenches his fist. "He would never do that." "I'm only saying what I know, kid. I can't do much else." Being pushed over the edge, this is when Shinra gets pissed, and this is when the Joker would see a glimpse of Shinra's true power, as his teeth grow and his face gets covered in scales. The fire brimming off of Shinra made him marvel at it, as he then said that it was the most beautiful thing he ever saw. "The more I meet you, the more interesting you get, Shinra Kusakabe." The Joker then warps into nothing, leaving behind a trace of a smiling face made of fire. "No regard for family or life. You ruined mine and made my life feel like a living hell, but now it's time to bring the fight to you." How will Shinra go about beating the evangelist? Why does Shinra have scales and such weird features? And what is with the deep sadness that overcomes him from time to time? What was that voice that appeared when the first incident happened? Find out in the upcoming parts. It's been me, Prince of What Ifs. This has been the 15K special, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Goodbye.